The Long Norway Round is the history of a road trip from Ireland to Nordkapp and back, traveling most of Northern and Central Europe. My name is Roberto, and this is Adventures for Mere Mortals. In July 2019, my friend Marco and I spent 20 days on the road with our motorbikes and camping gear. In this third installment, I'll cover 4 days spent riding hard in the central part of Norway, across the Lofoten Islands all the way to Nordkapp, where we would break only 50% of our total trip. After a well-deserved rest from the challenges of the previous day, we broke camp from Lyngstad in good spirit. First thing in the morning, we reached the Atlantic Road in just 30 minutes. Watching the bridges cutting through the scenery across open water truly was a great image to begin the day with. There was a possibility of rain that morning, and we didn't want to risk damaging the drone, so it goes without saying that we stopped for some aerial footage first chance we got. Believe me, it was insane how quickly the drone battery dropped due to the strong wind from the ocean. In the same spot where we stopped, there were loads of bikers and other travelers. The drone was a real conversation starter, and we had a quick chat with some of them.
We are going from Ireland to Nordkapp, and we are doing a documentary video. So you can, if you want to see the video, just go to this video machine.
Just looked out the window and thought, what the hell's that flying out there?
You're from the UK, aren't you?
Yeah,
I can hear that.
Just
I
near
just heard you
Manchester.
say you're Italian and living in Ireland.
Yeah, exactly.
Checked the Atlantic Road milestone, we got back on our bikes. The only problem with doing exciting things early in the morning is that probably you'll get bored soon after that if you don't find anything else to keep up with the pace. We were headed towards Trondheim, the milestone to move from southern to central Norway. We were hoping to lose the big touristy spots and bask into the wild as soon as possible. Luckily, the clouds moved on quickly and the day turned bright again. Mid-July is really the sweet spot to enjoy Norway on a motorbike. Points for good planning here. After covering some distance, we jumped on a ferry where we met another biker championing a good cause. I thought it was nice to give it some spotlight.
So guys, we are on another ferry here in Norway, and we met another biker friend on the road. His name is Peter. He's coming from the Czech Republic.
Hello, nice to meet you.
He's riding a gnarly, beautiful street glide. Right?
This is a street
It's
glide.
awesome. Look at this bike, it's fantastic. And I want to spend a few seconds to talk about an initiative that he's taking.
I'm riding or heading to the Nordkapp, like you. And one of the things why I'm riding there is to support a charity ride that we are doing in Czech Republic. This is the MTA ride. This is Muscular Dystrophy Association ride. And for each kilometer what I'm going, I will pay 1 crown. We have also some sponsors who are giving 1 crown per kilometer to the charity things. Yeah? This event is happening for already more than 11 years. And we collected altogether more than 8 million crowns, Czech crowns.
You show the next again to the camera?
Yeah.
So, look at these guys, this is for a good cause, definitely go and take a look at this.
If you want to follow us, it's MDA Ride on the Facebook, it's MDA Ride on the Instagram. Just give a like, and if you are going to Prague next year, I think it will be the third weekend in June. It's the event in the city center on the Venslaskové, Arnovské náměstí, and you can find there a lot of Harleys, a lot of bikers, a lot of fun, and you can just spend some money or take something to eat, and everything there will be earned is going for this.
It's for a good cause. Thank you very much, Pete. It's very
Thank you, nice to meet you.
After the ferry, we headed for Trondheim. It was the entry point to central Norway, and the true north was laying ahead of us. The region quickly became scarcely populated. As we were riding across a national park, I wouldn't even try to pronounce the name of. We had a hint that leaving the most populated areas, it could have been easier to find spots to wild camp. Towards the end of the day, while visiting a local shop, we asked for a recommendation. The name Majavatn came up as an abandoned camping site on a lakefront beach. We reached the location we've been recommended and started setting up camp, but after the heat of the afternoon, the cold of the lake was just irresistible.
This is amazing! We fucking needed this.
We are nearly the North Pole.
The Arctic Circle is not so far, but this is great. Like an hour ago we stopped for refuel and take a look at this shop where they were selling souvenirs at the guys at the counter. Were really nice. We asked for a spot where we could just wild camping in the area. We just need a bit of fire going while we are preparing dinner because there's a lot of mosquitoes.
Norway grants permissions to free camp in the nature by law. It's a real shame most countries don't live up to this regulation.
Would have been nice to have something to roast over the live fire.
Next time when we'll do long something around.
Long something else around.
Roberto is at the funeral.
Yes.
He is on a funeral because of all the mosquitoes he killed on his windshield. I need a bigger table.
We need a bigger pannier.
Yeah.
New panniers then.
Your pannier is nice. It's really large.
Well, size doesn't matter after all, Marco. Don't be jealous of the size of my pannier.
That's what everyone says that, but
it's how you use it, you know.
Size always matter. And now we are drinking something that is coming from a Jägermeister bottle.
Yeah, this is really special. It's actually in a Jägermeister bottle, but it's not Jägermeister. This is homemade licorice liquor that my mom makes in Italy, and she brought it over to Ireland when she came to visit me a month ago. And I saved some of this specifically for the trip. So, cheers to this.
Could it get any better?
Or do you want more?
I tried this already a few times. This is really good. I'm really glad he took it with him. It's 11. This is what we're doing instead of going to sleep.
On day number 8 of our journey, our plan was to reach Bodø to catch a 3-hour ferry to the Lofoten Islands. Much like the one that brought us from Ireland to Wales, not exactly a service you can afford to miss. The thing is, we realized we would need to make a run for it. It was time to finally cross that invisible line, marking the entrance to the true north, the Arctic Circle. We couldn't waste time in the visitor center though, and shortly we were on the road again. Reaching the Lofoten Islands via ferry was the only way to visit them without a large detour that would cost us 2 extra days. By the way, I hate driving on the same road twice, and I would do anything to avoid it. So at that stage, there really was nothing else we could do, only ride, and ride, and ride. With sore butts, we arrived at Bodø with only 20 minutes to spare. During the crossing, we were told that finding a place to camp could have been tricky due to high season demand and the lack of wild camping spots in the area. But what could we do if not to try? On top of that, I didn't have time to refuel before leaving Bodø, and I arrived at the Lofoten Islands almost without petrol in my tank, being concerned I might run out of it and being stranded like an idiot. It was already late, cold, and most places were already at full capacity.
The place is full. The place is full.
Yeah?
Yeah, okay.
Jesus.
No problem.
We couldn't find anything and we could only ride north from there. While running almost on fumes, at last we found fuel, supplies, and more importantly a camping spot in Flagstad beach. Riding the heavy bikes on the soft sand wasn't the easiest thing to do, but we were determined to pitch our tents in front of the sea.
Today has been intense and I thought that it was better to give you a little update because we didn't do much recording today. We needed to hit the road badly because we needed to make it in time at 4 p.m. for the ferry to the Lofoten Island where we are right now. And the weather is definitely getting colder and colder. The temperature are not plummeting yet, but definitely colder. Now we just found this camping spot on the beach. We set up the camp and tents and we're heading up for the night.
The next morning, we were ready to ride across the rest of the Lofoten Islands, past the milestone of Tromsø and push further north, as now no more ferries would stand between us and Nordkapp.
So we're having breakfast and then we go explore the Lofoten Islands. I think we should spend some time here to do some nice videos, and then when we get more north we take again some main roads.
After packing everything up, it was time to move. Let me tell you, we should have moved the bikes off the sand before loading the luggage. Lesson learned. Even though it was a chilly morning, by the end I was sweating. I don't think either of us could have done it without help, especially with road tires and with loaded panniers. I already have some ideas to shed weight off the bike and luggage. It's only a matter of time and money, as always. In the end, we left our sandy camping spot and started riding across the rest of the Lofoten Islands. For the next days, I would always ride with all the layers of clothing I had, as the temperatures hardly reached 15 degrees Celsius. Beautiful as the countryside was, for sure it was no longer the place for a swim. In northern Norway there was no shortage of amazing roads and scenery. It was just chillier and full of clouds.
The birds over here are freaking out. They're gone crazy. They were doing nothing until the drone went up in the air, and now they're freaking out. It feels like they're attacking the drone or something.
We pushed on, eventually leaving the Lofoten area, into the Tromsø district. It was not the finish line we were looking for, but from our position on the map, Nordkapp was starting to become a reality. The road was going on relentlessly, but we were blessed by a glimpse of sun in the afternoon. I'll never forget how beautiful the sky can get in Norway, even if only for a few minutes. At the end of the day, with grey clouds hovering above us and the threat of rain, we found a cheap camping site for less than €10 each and we took it. Wild camping is nice and all, but it takes time and several attempts to scout for a location. More than 5,000 kilometers already covered and even more to go, we set up camp, but sadly it wasn't time to rest yet.
Endless days.
Yes! I needed to take care of my bike chain, which was bothering me again. It was time to test the eastbound toolkit, clean everything up and readjust the tension.
Roberto's chain suddenly started to vomit. What a disgusting situation.
Yeah, we were passing by a chunk of road where they were repaving the tarmac, and I think I have half of the Norwegian tarmac within my front sprocket.
And now it's starting to be clean. Look at the vomit from a chain.
Want some?
I use some spray cleaner to get the most of this out.
And so, working until past midnight, our day ended. Day number 10 of the Long Norway Round. Nordkapp was finally within reach, but we still had to cover the last 500 kilometers. In the morning, I decided to clean up my bike. After all, I wanted to be decent to celebrate our big moment. We started riding toward Alta, where I was in contact with a fellow biker lady I had only spoken with over Facebook. Magic of the internet, right? Despite all the efforts, after roughly 1 hour of riding, my bike chain was still slacking and throwing a whirring noise. I agreed with Marco it was for the best to try and replace it, whatever it would take. I couldn't afford to jeopardize our goal now that the destination was so close.
Pretty intense time today here in northern Norway. Basically, after a really nice meet and greet with Sala, a biker lady that I've been in touch over Facebook for the last couple of weeks. Look at what the nice people we've met over the road! We managed to find a place that were keen to help us, I mean specifically me, in replacing my chain because the transmission is toasted. They pointed us out at like a hardware store where they were also selling motorcycle parts, and I bought the chain for not really a cheap price. I paid like 182 euros, which is incredibly expensive, but I didn't have a choice. And then I brought the bike here, and now it's back into service, and I hope we can get it done and be on the road as soon as possible. We are heading for Nordkapp tonight, and we will try to set up camp for the night and go and see the famous monument overnight. We'll see about that. Okay, looking good. It took like about an hour to get the job done, but it looks like now we have a new fully clean and fitted and tensioned chain on the bike, and we are about to get off for Nordkapp.
Now nothing was standing between us and our destination. We put on our GPS the coordinates for Olderfjord. From there will be only one road to take. South for Finland, north for Nordkapp. Only 130 kilometers left to go, and yet it seemed they were still 1,000. The road was unfolding ahead of us, in the astonishing landscape of sky and sea. The temperature was dropping fast, and I found myself cranking up my heated grips after so many hours of Arctic wind biting my hands. On top of that, we were about to plunge below sea level in the Nordkapp tunnel. I didn't know it was open to traffic only in 1999, and since 2012 it's even toll-free. 20th century travelers needed to ferry their way up. It's hard to convey the sensation of sudden wet cold with water dripping on your visor from the ceiling for almost 7 kilometers before reaching the surface. Heavy clouds were waiting for us after the tunnel, and now the water was falling from the sky. Reaching Nordkapp was at risk to be sullied by the weather. But I guess the Norse gods had something better in store for us. We rode across Honningsvåg, the northernmost city in Long Norway, where we spotted cruise ships approaching the harbor and buses crammed with tourists. Mixed feelings about that, to be honest. Only 30 kilometers from our destination. From this point on, it was only us and our bikes across absolute wasteland. Barren, cold, and yet mind-blowing. I just couldn't keep my eyes on the road. I could only imagine how this amazing land looked like without the tarmac road that was built in the 50s. Nothing could have stopped us now. Nordkapp was just behind the corner. We made it.
Roberto.
Easy.
Okay. So it's done. You just need to find a place where to pitch the tent, and then we can move the bike to a more permanent location.
There wasn't a rush to go and see the monument, as the visitor center would have been open until after 1 a.m. So we set up camp in the meantime.
We're wild camping at Nordkapp. And Roberto is frying salmon.
On a full stomach, finally we took that walk.
We made it.
Made it. All the way from Ireland.
It's incredible. It's 1 a.m. Right now, it's 1 a.m.
Looks like lunchtime in Rome. We made it, but we're exhausted. Actually looking forward to go sleep.
Yes. And to go back south to warmer climates too.
Yeah.
But it's nice. It's good. We made it.
Yeah.
And we are shy of 6,000 kilometers up to my odometer, so it's literally halfway of the trip.
Yeah, it's halfway. It's
Yeah,
exactly
yeah.
halfway of our trip. So what's the next trip, Roberto? Svalbard.
No, I would rather go. We are all the way north. We should go all the way south. Cape Town in South Africa is gonna be the next big one.
Are we gonna tell Kasia?
No, Kasia, don't listen to this. We are just kidding. We're not kidding.
We made friends with Dag, a Norwegian guy with a monkey bike. We couldn't lift our bikes over there, but we could lift his.
Don't laugh, come here, you bastard.
So, there you go. Here we are to Nordkapp itself. There was a time today that I was really happy and I almost started crying in my helmet out of happiness, and it didn't happen to me for a long time. There's no replacement for this. We saw on the road people coming over with buses. Maybe they just flew in or they came with a cruise ship. We saw a couple of them, but I think that does not give you the feeling of reaching the goal, the fulfillment. I did the right thing by commit myself to getting here in the first place, and on top of this, to teamwork with Marco too. We really work well together. We went through a lot already, and I'm sure we will continue to do so for the remainder of the trip. And not only, we are just focusing on the right thing to do. It's nice. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, consider subscribing to not miss the next episode. The next day, we would say farewell to Norway and start the long journey south across the vast forest of Finland.